One of the ways that I really enjoy occupying myself is just understanding these practices, why we do it, how it can enhance our lives. And all of you have actually joined me before in the practice, and you probably noticed that very often we do, when we close our eyes, and sometimes even my meditations, it tries to take you beyond your bodies, beyond your forms, and we sometimes expand it into the space around us, into rooms, into streets. And obviously a lot of people come into meditation so that in order to help them deal with stress and personal problems. Now, there's an interesting background behind it, because many teachers, I'm just giving you things to contemplate on. Many teachers, they consider us to be much more than our bodies. There's something called consciousness, awareness, and we can experience that when we tap into the only moment that ever exists, the present moment, because this is where awareness and consciousness is. And it moves beyond the boundaries of our bodies. It connects us. It connects us to each other. It connects us to those around us, those we know, those we love, those we care about, right to the complete strangers that we walk past, that we get into buses with, those lying underneath bridges who don't have homes. And one consequence of stepping beyond our form is that those problems, almost all the problems we have in our life, if you analyze them, they somehow affect the body. Even if you want to alleviate hunger in the world, you want to alleviate suffering in the world, it affects us somehow physically, through sadness, through distress, by wanting others to have full stomachs. And so as we move beyond our bodies, our problems, our challenges, they become smaller and smaller. Because, first of all, because they only exist in our mind. And second of all, because when we step into the present moment, into awareness, into presence, into consciousness, that's also where all the solutions are, where all the wisdom is, where all the kindness is. And so we meditate for clarity. You know how we often use metaphors, analogies in this practice, and recently I heard a teacher describe it beautifully. He asked his students, and let's ask ourselves this question as well. Have we ever been outside in a truly dark night without a torch and into a completely unfamiliar place, maybe a new place we were visiting? I, for example, I've spent a lot of time trekking through jungles as a young child, but Just imagine yourself walking outside in the darkness without a torch, without a moon, without street lamps. It can be quite stressful, it can be quite scary because we don't know where we're stepping on. And assuming there's no footpath, there's no proper path, no road. You don't know if you're going to step into a hole, you don't know. And there's a lot of uncertainty, stress, worry. And this teacher basically said, many of us, we navigate through our lives in this way, without clarity, just stumbling along, not knowing where, unconscious, not conscious of where our next step is going to take us. And meditation is the process whereby we find the clarity. The clarity has always been here. And that's why many teachers use the word enlightened or light to describe the clarity that they experience once they begin practices such as this. And so all we seek is clarity, so that after this practice we can be more conscious of our movements, of the next step that we take and the step after that. It's a practice where we don't, after today's practice, we won't be worrying about the second step or the third step, but just the next step. Doing one thing at a time, more consciously in the stillness of the present moment. It's also, as we tap into that part within us that is our true self, we also begin to relate with the world in a completely new way. Because when the same teacher, he described how many of us, up to now, we've used our minds in our interactions with the world around us. And when we use the mind, we dissect the world. The same way we would dissect a human body or a frog or an insect, we try to understand how it works by taking it apart. And many of the medical treatments are also done in this way, where we try to dissect, try to write PhDs, understand. But this is a practice where we step outside of the mind, and instead of dissecting the world around us, we embrace the world around us. And so by dissecting a human being, you'll understand how his or her organs, how the body works, but nothing more. But by embracing a human being, by embracing an animal, you understand so much more through the kindness and the wisdom that comes along with it, not just reasoning. And so those were just a few words just to remind ourselves about our practice, how significant these practices are, how they can affect every area, every aspect of our life. And so in a moment, I'm going to ring the bell. And the bell is going to be an opportunity to step away from my words Because my words, they may have stimulated thought. They might have given you new things to think about, to contemplate on. And now we want to leave the mind. Or more importantly, embrace this present moment. And so I'm going to, when I ring the bell, let us all begin to inhabit our bodies. And why would we do this? Because our bodies are the tools that we have been given at this particular moment that will allow us to tap into the present moment. Through the different senses, each one of our senses are doorways into the present moment. And so as you inhabit your body, as I inhabit my body more fully, let's begin to notice the sounds around us, all that our bodies can experience and feel. I don't know if you've been eating or drinking anything before this practice, but what you might be able to still taste in your mouth or not taste, what you can smell. And here comes the bell. Feeling the points of contact between the body and the cushions, the mats and the chairs underneath you. Feeling the fabric of your clothing and how it wraps itself around your body. Noticing your body's posture, which will be indicating to you whether you're sitting down or lying down. And then breathing. Of course, you've always been breathing since the day you were born. But raising the level of awareness, becoming more conscious that you are breathing, because the breathing is one thing you cannot take a break from. You can't skip a breath, because the minute you skip a breath, you know it's over. And so, exploring your breathing, exploring all that you can experience through the surfaces of skin around your body, experiencing your spinal column and the way in which it supports the weight of your body, beautifully aligning itself vertebra by vertebra, supporting your head, because the top end of the spinal column, it connects to the base of the skull. And if you like, you can reach your forehead upwards comfortably so that it raises your head, stretches the spinal column upward so that your posture becomes more majestic. Pressing the bottom end, the tail end of your spinal column down so that you can feel the stretch in the spinal column. And then dropping your shoulders, relaxing your shoulder muscles. noticing the balance. And so all of these are indicators that our bodies have arrived in this space, at this practice, this particular moment where we're all sitting together, breathing and sharing something very special. This moment we call the present moment. And when I say we are sharing it, we really are, because there are countless people out there who are also sharing this planet with us at this moment, but living some moment in the past or living some moment in the future. But then there are also many others who are also as present as we are. And then there are the countless animals. Now, animals have a very special gift of being present. And so as we tap into this present moment, we can feel the momentum, the new momentum, carrying us so that we land or arrive deeper and deeper into this present moment. And then we shine the spotlight on the mind. To see where the mind is at this particular moment. Because what we are interested in this practice is seeing how we can align our mind with our bodies. Because there is another great teacher whose most important teaching was the alignment. He spoke about the alignment between the word, the thought, and the action, or the deed, being the answer to life itself. Unity in word, thought, and deed. And so we've established that our bodies are here. You're obviously not talking. And so we'll focus on the mind. Where is the mind right now? And there is no right place for the mind to be. We just want to notice where the mind is. Because you'll see, but gradually through the practice that we are embarking in, the mind will gently align itself. But right now, we're just at the starting point. We want to see where the mind is. For some of us, the mind is in the past. It could be as recent as this morning. It could be as recent as half an hour ago before we began this practice. Or it could be thinking about last night, day before. Sometimes it goes back all the way to the childhood. And then for the rest of us, the mind will be jumping into the future. And it's very easy to make generalizations like this because it's the nature of the mind. It's the nature of the mind to move. But what's even more fascinating is that each of us will find our minds moving at a different speed, carrying a different momentum. And so you'll notice that if you had a big disagreement or a big argument this morning or recently, that might be powering up the momentum. or if you've already done some meditation or listened to something calming and soothing, your momentum might be a little bit slower. And then for those of us whose thoughts have jumped into the future, we'll also notice that the future that is imagined, it will be completely based on what the mind knows from the past. That means it can't imagine anything new. It might have read news articles or listened to scary stories about the economy or strange viruses and symptoms, or it might just be the diary. It might just have looked at your diary this morning and figured out all those different tasks and duties that have to be done later on, and then it's busy. It's already busy. But this is a practice where we let go of all of that. We just observe it, we notice it. And maybe we begin by just acknowledging that there is a time to do all of that. And when the time comes to perform those duties and actions, we will do it mindfully. But until then, we're not doing that right now. We're here, we're sitting and breathing. And how do we step outside of these thoughts? Because they are moving like a stream, a constantly moving stream that's carrying us, with us in the water. For some of us, the current is so strong that we almost believe that we are a part of the stream, that it's impossible to get out. But it's not that difficult. It's only difficult because we are lost in the thought stream. Now bring yourself back. Let's explore how we can do this. Bring yourself back to your body. So you can roll your shoulders around just to remind yourself you're not in the past, you're not in the future, you're right here. You can take a deep breath, a few deep breaths. Because you can only breathe in this moment. And so you're breathing, you're feeling the sensations that you're experiencing at this moment. What are the sensations that tell you that your body is sitting here breathing? There is air, it's moving in and then out through the nostrils. You can feel the relative stillness of your body. You can feel the points of contact between your body and the surface underneath. You can explore the temperature of the air around you. You can explore the hardness or the softness of the surface underneath you. You can explore the temperature of the air that's flowing into your nostrils. And then after that, you can explore the temperature and the humidity of the breath as it leaves your nostrils. And then as you tune into your body in this way, you'll notice meanings arising, warmth, like the breath is warm as it flows out. It's humid it's become so much more humid as it flows out. You can feel the texture of your clothing. It feels soft or rough, comfortable or too cool. You can feel the pockets of air that's trapped between the fabric and your skin. And then through that you can experience maybe warmth or still coolness in temperature. And then through the exposed areas of skin, you detect a different temperature from that which is covered by clothing. Your face, your hands. And as you begin to explore the sensations, so we're not really thinking about what we're experiencing. We're actually tuning into the sensations as these labels arise: warmth, coolness, softness, comfort, uncomfortable, rough. That is an indication that your mind is aligning itself with your body. Because without the mind as a tool, all you will experience is sensations, neither hot nor cold, neither rough nor smooth. And then you begin to notice your mind gently leaving the past, gently leaving the future, and aligning itself with the body. And many of these sensations, they might feel quite new, because most of us live our lives quite unconsciously. We rarely experience our clothing. We rarely experience a particular temperature unless it's too extreme. And we usually describe temperature even as either too hot or too cold, but not as it is. And so as we start experiencing in this way, it almost becomes as though we are experiencing it for the first time. And when this happens, gaps begin appearing. Between the thoughts. Almost like the space that appears between clouds. It's not a continuous cloud anymore. It's one cloud and then a gap. And then another cloud. And what's special about this practice is that we're going to tune into the gaps, into the space in between the clouds. And what happens as we tune into these gaps, this space in between the thoughts, in between the clouds, as we become aware of these gaps, the gaps get bigger. It becomes so much more spacious. It grows. The spaciousness grows. Because before, we were focusing on the form. And it's easier to focus on the clouds, isn't it? When you look up in the sky, you see the different shapes, the different colors of the clouds. And then you forget the sky around it. Or another example is that in your own room, you notice the walls, you notice the furniture, you notice the paintings, the sculptures. But then you don't notice the space. And the space is the most important part. And as we notice the space in between our thoughts, Feel the relief, because there's so much more space than there are thoughts. And we don't expect ourselves to completely be immersed in the space, because this is called a practice, because occasionally we will get caught up in the clouds and the thoughts. But this is a practice. We remind ourselves that this is a practice where our aim is not to force our mind to go still. Just like the clouds in the sky, we give them permission to exist. Because it is a lifetime of momentum. We've picked up so many different experiences. Each one of those experiences adding to the momentum of the mind. We're just going to divert our attention to the space and begin recognizing that the space is so much more vast, and it has all those qualities of kindness, of understanding, of patience. In fact, the word patience, it doesn't even exist in this present moment, because time does not exist in this present moment, because it's always the now. Whether in 1 minute, in 5 minutes, in 5 days, it will always be the present moment. This moment we call the now. And so there is an infinite amount of patience, but also an infinite amount of wisdom and kindness, which will guide us towards all that we wish to accomplish and achieve, only because of the clarity that we find from this space. And so our practice is about developing a new relationship with our mind, and not fighting the mind. Begin to the process whereby we recognize the mind as a tool. We've all heard of the term, and I'm sure we would all want a sharp mind. A sharp mind, it's been deemed as a good thing, a sharp mind. And if something is sharp, we begin to recognize it as a tool. And just like a sharp knife, we can use it to do good, or we can use it to cause harm. And so from this space, there is a recognition. There is a clarity and an understanding of the mind as a tool, an invaluable tool. Which is what this practice is about. Developing this new relationship